Can see why a lot of people don't like this movie. It is very tonally different to the other two, especially when it's featuring the animals being tortured to create the perfect beings. It gets very dark and very twisted. Did really enjoy the Rocket storyline. It was a smart way to kind of split it throughout the narrative, where you kept on focusing on the past and then the future. So it didn't get too heavy at once. It kind of gave room for the rest of the story to breathe. With him outsmarting the High Evolutionary was a very clever way to kind of set up the future plot line with why he hates him. Because the High Evolutionary is so obsessed with creating the perfect being, to have something that he would consider being a lesser being outsmart him would just ruin him, and it does. I was a bit surprised by Star-Lord's drinking problem, because in the holiday special he seemed absolutely fine, and now in this he is drunken quite a lot of the time, and yeah, it just kind of came a bit out of the blue. At one point in this movie, I actually thought him and Nebula were going to get together, because one, they have fantastic chemistry together, and two, it kept on seeming to kind of want to pair them up. But I'm glad there wasn't really a love focus in this story, because it would have ruined it. Like, it wouldn't have fit in narratively at all. Gamora was actually really well handled in this as well. I was really worried because of the narrative we got in the other movies, and then her suddenly dying. I thought it was going to be ruined in this one, but having her as a completely different version of Gamora worked in its favor, because, you know, Star-Lord is sad, he's not quite over it, and she's not supporting him, she's not with him, she's really kind of against him, and she's with the Ravengers, and it's a really kind of refreshing take, and their dynamic is much more interesting because she's so feisty in this. When Stallone showed up, I genuinely thought it was Nova, because the costume looks just like his suit. It kind of sunk in a minute, and I was like, oh no, wait, it's just Stallone. The whole present-day storyline was interesting to save Rocket, but I did think the origin story was a lot more interesting. It really drew me in with all the characters and kind of him having all the friendship with all the other animals. A bit weird that James Gunn decided to split the narrative again, because this is the second movie he's decided to do that. I get why he's done it, but it is just a little bit strange. Adam Warlock was handled well and didn't outstay his welcome. Like, introducing him decimating the Guardians at the beginning was just a fantastic way. And then to kind of carry on the plot with the High Evolutionary just wiping the floor with him as if he wasn't anything. Because it is a really clever way of just showing, like, how powerful one person is. And then to completely get outpowered by the other one, to just go, oh yeah, you know what? You thought this guy was bad. Check out this guy. Did like the High Evolutionary for what we got, but he wasn't really a mainstay in the story, who was much more kind of a side character. For what we got, it was good, but it didn't really overbear on the plot overall. Like the final battle as well, like, it wasn't this whole long drawn out big CGI fight. It was literally bang, bang, done. And I think that's perfect, because we don't always need these long drawn out fights. They're just not interested anymore in the comic book movies. They're just a waste of time. So to have something just short and sweet, it was great. I genuinely thought Star-Lord was going to die in this movie. Like, it really, like, got my emotions going. As soon as his face started to go, I was like, oh my word. Because what a way to end the franchise that would be. But no, it was fake out, but it was an extremely well-handled fake out, and it was much more believable than a lot of other movies these days. Speaking of which, I knew this was like the last movie that James Gunn was going to do, but I did not expect the Guardians to just like up and like split up. Like, that was a surprise, and yeah, I was like, oh my word, what's actually going to happen? Then you get the end credit, and you have like Rocket with a kid who I think is Moondragon. Let me know what comic that character is. If anyone knows, just please let me know. But I think it's supposed to be Moondragon, and like, he's off with his own team, and now Groot is even bigger and more massive. Looks great, by the way. I do like the new team, but like the original team is kind of where it's at for me. You know, that's where I'm emotionally vested right now, and the send off to them was just perfect. I think this one is going to get better the more times you watch it, because there's going to be a lot more things you notice and you can appreciate about the story. I think the soundtrack was good, but it wasn't as good as the previous movies. It's probably something to do with tone, but there's also a lot of scenes where characters were just sitting still and then the music was blaring, which it didn't really do anything for me. It kind of felt too music video for me. But if you are the kind of person who cries over movies, this might make you cry a lot, because my girlfriend cried 3 times. So be prepared for that. As I said, I had a fantastic time watching this, and James Gunn delivered completely on his final chapter in the Guardians of the Galaxy. Absolutely fantastic.